I'm 32, my sister's 28, and we've always been incredibly close. Point in case, she was the first person I told I was pregnant, besides my husband. I told her a week after I got a positive pregnancy test, about 3 months before her wedding. I told her that I would tell our parents and my husband's parents around the 10-week mark, but she told me that I should hold off until her wedding in September. I'll be like 4 months along at that point, so I wouldn't be showing really, and she thought it would be so special for her to be able to make an announcement about a special guest at her wedding. And it's her first niece or nephew and my parents' first grandbaby. So I agreed because it seemed like it meant a lot to her. Again, we were super close, and I was happy to do that for her. The first trimester was awful with morning sickness and exhaustion. I would have preferred to talk about it with my mom, but I was willing to grin and bear it for my sister's wedding. Well, the wedding came along, and about halfway through the night, I asked her when the announcement was happening. She told me that she'd changed her mind and that her wedding didn't seem like a good place or a time to announce my pregnancy. I was super upset, since I went through an awful first trimester with only my sister and husband to lean on. But I decided I wasn't going to put the announcement on hold any longer, just for her. So my husband and I pulled my parents aside and quietly told them to keep it private for the evening. They were thrilled, with lots of hugs and a few tears, but a very touching and private moment. Literally no one else found out until I announced it on Facebook a week later. My sister found out around the same time as my Facebook post, when my dad mentioned how we told him about it, and she texted me and called me a witch who made her wedding about myself, and she hasn't spoken to me since. I've messaged her and apologized, probably a dozen times since then, but she refuses to talk to me, and now she refuses to come to see her little nephew, who's a newborn. My parents and partner think I did nothing wrong, since she went back on her word, and that I should just wait it out and she'll come around. I'm obviously unsure, as this has made her so upset with me, and we were so close before. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. You know what happened here, right? Your sister didn't want you to steal any of her wedding thunder leading up to the wedding. She saw this as her time, and the focus was supposed to be on her upcoming life event, not yours. That's why she told you not to tell anyone at all, and then she'd announce it at the wedding. I don't think she ever planned to announce it. It was just a way to keep you from telling anyone, so she could be the center of attention for months. OP, I'm sorry about your sister, but congrats on your little one. This is the exact vibe I got too. OP was being manipulated. Stop apologizing and enjoy your new family. Honestly, OP, making you keep it secret from your parents that long was a crappy thing to do, especially when she saw you suffering through the first trimester. I don't know your situation with your parents, but it sounds like you could have really used their support, help, and reassurance during that time, and your sister kept that from you. I 100% agree. She never had the intention of making an announcement. She was worried your parents would support you in your pregnancy rather than her, or maybe wouldn't spend as much money on her wedding because they were preparing and buying things for the baby. One thing OP should learn, her sister does not consider her the same way she does. They're not close. Exactly. OP, I wouldn't bother reaching out to the sister. When you run into her at mom's, just gray rock her hard. She's a selfish, plotting person. You went through half of your pregnancy without your parents' support because her wedding was more important. I can't believe she'd want you to go through this with little to no support. How awful. My brother's having a destination wedding. I'm sure it'll be very nice. I'm widowed, single mom with 2 young kids. I'm not destitute or even hard up. My husband had insurance. We live in a paid-off house, and we have investments that provide me with an excellent amount of backup to my salary. I would rather be in debt up to my eyes and be in his arms every night. Trust me. The wedding will cost about $2,200 for a week. It's a very good resort. I RSVP'd no. Maybe if it was in the summer, I would consider it a vacation, but I would need to take the time off school. My in-laws are retired, and they love watching the kids, but they're elderly. My husband was a little older than me, and my kids are a lot to take for a week. Taking the kids out of school and bringing them to the wedding will cost about $5,500 since we would be sharing a room. That would put a massive dent in our budget. I know that my parents are still working to save for retirement, so this will be expensive for them. My brother called me right away to ask why I wasn't coming. I said I really wanted to come, but I just couldn't justify it. He said that I had lots of money in the bank. That's not really any of his business. And if God forbid something happens to me, my kids are going to need that money. I'm not going to blow a chunk of it on a wedding. He's upset that I won't be coming. He kept pushing until I finally admitted that I didn't think it was the best use of my money. Then I said something I shouldn't have. I said if he really wanted me there, then he could pay for the trip. He hung up and hasn't called back. My parents did call me though, and they said I didn't need to hoard all my money. I'm torn. Am I being an idiot for not splurging a little and going to my brother's wedding? Am I an idiot for basically telling him he has to pay for me to go? I can see his point of view, but I have a lot of other things I need to consider. I thought maybe an outside perspective would tell me if I was a witch. Edit. Before everyone jumped on my brother, he came to my destination wedding, but it wasn't as expensive, and he stayed in the same room as my parents. And my husband paid for everyone in our family that we invited. Not the idiot. An invite is not a summons to appear. If you have a destination wedding, you've got to realize people won't come. And you're not hoarding your money. You're making smart decisions based on the best thing to do for your children. Tell anyone who says that to go back in their box. It's your money, not theirs. I've always assumed that anyone who hosts a destination wedding secretly wants to have their guest list be as short as possible. What better way to get people to say no than to plan a wedding that's expensive, time-consuming, and disruptive to their regular schedule? If OP's brother really wanted her and as many other guests to attend, then they shouldn't have opted for a destination wedding. Or he should have extended the same courtesy that OP's husband did for him and covered the cost of travel. Send a nice gift, fawn over the pictures, and let him get over it. I'm sorry, but anyone who holds a destination wedding during the school term, a 12-hour flight away from their widowed single parent of 2 siblings, shouldn't be hurt about their not attending. It's not just the cost, but the practicalities around school, childcare, taking time off work, and so on. Pulling your kids out of school for a wedding would be an idiot move, especially late in the term. And the same goes for spending money that ought to be your household emergency fund or your children's college money. You aren't obligated to spend that on someone else's wedding, and anyone who would push that is an idiot. Background. My mom had me with my bio father, but he bailed before I was even born. My mom's best friend, Locke, stepped up and told her he would be my dad, and he's been my dad ever since I was born. Mom and Dad were never together, always just friends since my dad is gay, but it just worked. When I was 7, my mom met her husband, Matt, and ever since he and my mom got serious, I've known he has issues with my dad. It started out slight enough. He would tell people Dad was my wife's friend, and not that he was my dad. He also didn't correct anyone who wrongly assumed he was my dad. But then he asked me to spend Father's Day with him instead of my dad. It wasn't pushed exactly, but the tone was, he's not your dad, but I could be, type of thing. Then my mom was in an accident when I was 9, and he tried to argue that I should stay with him instead of with my dad, even though legally my dad was listed on my birth certificate and had legal rights to me in custody. It hurts my dad's relationship with Mom a bit, and it meant Matt was always to me, someone who was just trying to interfere where he didn't belong. My teens were rough with stuff, but the final blow came when Matt showed up to a father-daughter event for Father's Day that I hadn't invited him to, and that I was attending with my dad, and attempted to get my dad to leave. Then told him he was not married to my mom, nor was he my bio dad, and he should have stepped aside so I could have a normal family. My mom and Matt are invited to my wedding, but he's nothing more than a guest, and she's not much either. Matt objected to this. He offered to pay, which I rejected, and then he told me he was in the shadows of my wedding, and it wasn't fair. I told him he had earned his place in the shadows, and he wasn't important enough for me to invite, really, but Mom had sort of made it that way by staying with him, so he was going as a courtesy to her and nothing else. He called me an ungrateful brat and said I shouldn't be so rude to him. I know what I said was cold, so I asked, am I the idiot? Ungrateful for what? He did everything he could to drive a wedge between you and your father and tried to force you to be something you didn't want. Given his history, showing up at an event to cosplay your father, you should uninvite him and tell your mom that you don't trust him not to cause a scene at your wedding. You are not the idiot. And get yourself some security. He's the type that would show up anyway. If your mom protests, uninvite her too. Congratulations on your upcoming wedding, and I hope you and your dad have a wonderful time. Oh, honey, this man crashed a father-daughter event and caused a scene, and you seriously think he'll get all dressed up for your wedding and stay in the shadows like Batman? LMAO, he's absolutely going to throw a tantrum. But will it be when someone else walks you down the aisle? Or when you do a father-daughter dance with dad? Or when close friends and family do toasts and speeches? How exciting! That's my concern as well. LOL, my father-in-law threw a tantrum right before my sister-in-law was to walk down the aisle. He threw a major fit about how it should have been him sitting in the front row and how could everyone disrespect him in this way. Blah, blah, blah. It was a major embarrassment to everyone involved. Luckily, sister-in-law still has no idea it happened. Now brother-in-law made everyone promise never to tell her. Outside security is often brought in for such situations, so the wedding party doesn't have to deal with it. How will you torpedo your relationship with someone, then expect to have a place of honor in their major life events? Insane. OP, it's more than a little heartbreaking that had your mom and Matt acted like adults, you could have had 3 people who loved you unconditionally. But in my experience, kids just need one person to be that for them. I'm glad you had your dad to demonstrate that for you. I, 26 male, was dating Lisa, 25 female, for around 3 years. I thought we were happy, but it turns out I was happy while she kept secrets. Before me, Lisa was in a relationship with Mary, 41 female, but it ended. I was just told that it didn't work out, so I didn't ask any more questions because quite frankly it wasn't my business, and I figured she knew her identity. So let's get into it, I guess. I live in a house a few blocks away from the college where Lisa's receiving her graduate degree, and the way our relationship was going, I asked her to move in a little over a year ago. Lisa was put on academic probation due to her grades, which caught me off guard, to be honest. I asked what was going on and if I could help. This would begin our downward spiral. After a few days, Lisa came to me and told me she couldn't fight it anymore, and she needed to tell me that she was gay, and she no longer felt she had romantic interest in men. I was surprised, and to be open, I was livid. I don't care that someone's gay, but she had no right to steal years of my life from me. Our relationship was a lie, and my time was stolen. I felt like I was going crazy. People were calling her brave, while at the same time were confused about why it would upset me. Finally, I gave Lisa an eviction notice, legally, and it went from bad to worse. Lisa does not drive and doesn't work. She came from New York City, so she said she had no reason to drive and didn't want the expense. She didn't work because of school and free housing provided through me. She contacted her college's resource center to figure out housing, but they couldn't help and pointed her towards shelters and a local church. She can move back home, but she'd have to drop out to the fall semester. And with her being on probation, that would slow her graduation down by 18 months and add a ton more debt. That's if the classes she needed were even offered when she enrolled, making going home a waste of her graduate time. I view this as a problem. I'm still bitter about my time being wasted, but a little more has come out. Lisa and Mary split up due to physical issues, and Lisa will likely move back in with Mary. Lisa called me last weekend and pleaded to let her stay for 3 months, but I dismissed her. Most of my friends want to stay out of it, but some say I'm doing something wrong. The one friend on my side has asked them why they don't take her in, and they get uneasy and say why it's different. Am I the idiot for evicting Lisa? Not the idiot. At 25, she's enough of an adult to get out, get a job, and find a place. It's time to put her big girl pants on and start caring for herself. She likely knew she wasn't into you for a while, but instead of taking action and finding a job in her own place, she deferred doing anything of the sort and tried to ride it out on your dime. That's the real issue. Exactly. You've been providing free room and board to someone based on a relationship. She no longer wants the relationship, but is upset that you no longer want to take care of her. I can't see the logic of anyone who feels it's your duty to house and feed her. I can't see how anybody would be on her side. I agree she wasted your time and emotions. Oh, I assure you there are people on her side. She's brave and confused, and the world is expected to bow to that. The OP probably seems a bit heartless because it's being framed as he's forcing her out of school, rather than he enabled her to go to school all the prior years. If she was perplexed about her identity, I empathize, but to expect someone you just dumped to take care of you for multiple months is beyond entitled. I have a feeling if she was financially independent, she would have come out sooner. She's not an idiot for being gay, but she is one for expecting you to keep supporting her. She doesn't work, and she's barely passing school. You didn't cause her problems. I'm so sorry you're going through this. Everyone expecting you to be supportive of her through this wouldn't be singing this same song if she left you for a man. My girlfriend always seems to zone out whenever there are really long conversations. She zones out if I talk about my day, or how work went, or even when we're out with friends. And whenever I call attention to this, she always says it's because it was pretty boring. So I asked her if she might have ADHD, and she's trying to make an appointment with a therapist, but hasn't been able to. And as of yet, she's still looking. Yesterday we had dinner at my parents' house, and she began drifting off. My dad pointed this out, and she apologized, but then did it again. When the dinner was over, we drove back, and I got really annoyed. I yelled at her that she just couldn't keep saying sorry and expecting me to be cool with it. She told me it was out of her control, and then I said to get it under control then. Today she's been very quiet and withdrawn, and I'm feeling really bad for how I acted. Am I the idiot? Info. Have you tried to be more interesting? Are you having a conversation or just talking at her without letting her talk at all? Because I've dated those guys, and of course I was nodding off as they blabbered on about themselves and asked me nothing about myself or my day. You are the idiot. Here's why. There are two possible reasons why this is happening. Possible reason one, she has a neurological issue that's out of her control, in which case you are the idiot for getting angry. From my perspective, saying get it under control is like telling a depressed person, have you tried not being sad? Possible reason two, you're the sort of person who will drone on and on and on and bloody on forever about things because you're narcissistic and need to have a captive audience as you drone and drone and drone, in which case you are the idiot and need to learn about the give and take of conversation. Since she says your conversation is boring, my bet's on reason two, but I can't be certain. I'm going with everyone's the idiot here. You shouldn't have yelled. That doesn't get you anywhere. But it might be neurological, and it's up to her to pursue finding out what's going on, because just saying she's bored is rude. If she's visibly zoning out, it's causing problems in her life, and she should be, at the very least, trying to learn why.